Hello divas and dudes, my name is Suzanne Parker. Welcome to Powerhouse Bakery. Today I'm going to show you a little window into what we do with meal prep. If this is the first time visiting us here at Powerhouse Bakery in these wonderful little videos, I want to share a little bit about Powerhouse Bakery and what we do here. We are a dedicated gluten-free kitchen, and what I love to do is invite people in, especially when our customers just kind of stumble upon us looking for maybe a celebration cake, and they realize that we do a lot more than just sweets. Typical Powerhouse Bakery style, we love to show the world that healthy can taste amazing. And what I have in front of you here is a wonderful list of foods that we typically use in our meal prep. And so over the next couple of visits, I'm going to show you how to transform about $60 into fabulous meals. We'll get at least 15 different dishes out of these different foods. And so I'm going to show you all these different ways to use these dishes. So if you're with me at HEB shopping, I now just unloaded everything and I want to show you the categories of all the things that we have. So first of all, I want to go over the complex carbohydrates. We've got our roasted potatoes. So I use the red potatoes. We also can use sweet potatoes. I love both of these. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to serve these. But the trick is we want to load up our oven with several different things so that we're prepping for the whole week right when we get our groceries. So complex carbohydrates in potatoes. And remember, I picked the small potatoes because you get more skin ratio to the pulp. And so that means we get more minerals, more fiber, and a lot more nutrition. So little potatoes. And here are a couple of my favorite items, the poblano pepper. You're going to see these used in lots of different ways. We can stuff them, we can chop them and saute them, but they are going to go in so many great dishes. So poblano peppers are super important. Again, complex carbohydrate. Let's jump back over to the real carbohydrates. Brown rice, perfect example of a way to mix and match throughout the week using this wonderful staple. I love brown rice because it's going to give us plenty of extra protein and fiber, but just know that we can dress it up and it'll taste amazing. We'll have lots of good flavors to add to our brown rice. And we have the famous corn tortillas. I picked these because they are extra soft. Of course, they're all organic corn and they are gluten-free. So find one that you like. It doesn't always have to be gluten-free, but I think the corn are excellent, and I also really like the small size. We're going to use this for layering into an enchilada as well as fish tacos, even the corn tortilla used for the chicken. So you'll see lots of great ways to use the corn tortilla. And then I've got some pasta noodles. Easy to boil. We're going to boil them ahead of time and keep them in the fridge, and it's going to be an easy grab and go to finish off our meal. Remember, every time we do a meal, we want to have three main components. We want to know where the protein is, where the complex carbohydrates are, and of course, where are the greens. So that's where these come in. Here is my beautiful bowl of greens. So I picked kale this time, but you could pick spinach, you could even pick romaine if you want. Spinach and kale are really the best because they hold up so well. And so we're gonna prep that ahead of time, and we're gonna keep it in a glass bowl with a cover on it so it lasts beautifully all week. And if you've ever had our quinoa kale chicken salad at Powerhouse Bakery, you know that it lasts really well and it tastes so good when it's marinated in your favorite dressing. So the other vegetable that I have, we go with frozen. So this is my broccoli florets, and you can't even tell that I took them right out of the bag. They were frozen, but they work out beautifully when you're doing meal prep. So during the week, we're going to use our fresh vegetables first, and then we have our frozen ready to go. So I just leave them in the bag until I'm ready to dish up the veggie. So it's a really easy grab and go. Now let's go back into the produce section a little bit more. Important condiments. Whenever we're prepping our meats as well as our complex carbs, it's really important to have some citrus. So if you know me, I use the zest and I use the juice in almost everything that I do. So make sure we have these on our grocery list. And then tomatoes adds great color, adds great lycopene, very important to have. Now, it's going to be a little bit longer, but pretty soon the Ryman Ranch is going to have our own tomatoes, and hopefully you have a garden growing too, and you can grow your own beautiful tomatoes. But until then, let HEB cover you. And of course, we love the limes. Now, in this container, I just chopped up some celery. So again, I want to show you how to do meal prep in minutes and stay in a budget. So again, all the items you see on my table are under $60 total. So if you have a couple of extra little things in your pantry or in your refrigerator, you can always add those in to add a little more embellishment if you want. For example, salt. Always going to need to have salt. That's going to be a staple. And some kind of good oil. I love to use walnut oil, but you can use the lesser expensive products like olive oil. Great option. And so make sure you've got that as your staple. Now let me go to some other really important staples. I love to have sauces. So what I have here is a basic marinara sauce that of course goes great over the pasta noodles, but I also can use it as a base for marinade. And then I've got this fabulous green enchilada sauce. Notice that I'm using the Hatch brand, and on our grocery list you'll see that this is actually more expensive than another brand, but I choose it because not only is it gluten-free, it's also non-GMO verified. We love that. And it's got a fantastic flavor. So there's going to be some areas on this table where I do choose a little more expensive because it really matters. So doing our grocery shopping, there's always going to be a pros and cons to going cheaper. If we want to stay under our $60, of course that's good, but we don't want to sacrifice flavor or nutrition. So this is a really good example. And while I'm on it, I might as well mention that this Barilla brand, one of the cheapest, and it also has the non-GMO label, which I love, and it has a great base flavor. Be careful because sometimes the pasta sauces have added sugar. Who would have thought? This one, however, doesn't. So it's a nice clean base, just great tomato flavor. And that's what you want to look for. Other favorites and absolute staples are beans. And as you know, these are a complex carbohydrate, and oh my gosh, we can use these in so many ways. Remember that when we're creating our protein, our carbohydrate, and our veggies, we're always going to look at what food item can jump over and be a protein as well as a complex carbohydrate. That just means we've got lots more ways to use it, which I love. Beans are it. So we're going to use these beans as a center of a plate. We can also use it as a side. Lots of things to do with beans. Now let's go to the more expensive side of the world, so we think, and that is the protein. Notice here that I've got two different kinds of fish. I want to do fresh, but I also want to have frozen. So just like the produce, I'm going to use the fresh up first in the beginning of the week, and then I have the frozen for later in the week. We can marinate and let it sit even a couple of days in the fridge as well. So I'm going to show you how that's done. But the fresh is going to be one that we want to use first. And, you know, it'll stay in the fridge at least a day or so. So marinating it is fine. That's going to let it live a little longer, whether it be the fresh or the frozen. So adding some citrus and some olive oil is a great way to add that marinade and extend the life of any of your proteins. Which brings me to the all-time favorite, Jennio ground turkey. You know, really, I should probably have bought stock in Jennio because I love to recommend it, and we use it all the time at Powerhouse Bakery. Great product because it does not have any fillers. So when you make your burgers, it comes out really great. It doesn't have a sticky texture like some of the other off-brands. So this one I really recommend. I do pick the one with 93% lean, and notice that I got a pretty large one. So even if you're just a small family of 4, I still recommend you get the 3-pound because there's so many things we can do with it. I'm going to show you how to make turkey burgers, turkey meatloaf, and of course street taco meat, which is going to be a really fun one for the whole family. And all of those ones that I mentioned, we're going to make all at once, and then you can freeze or even just chill and refrigerate. That's the cook chill method, and it works out really well so that, again, you don't have to cook every day of the week. You can open the fridge, grab a couple of items, and you're good to go. Great option. Now, I've also got this beautiful chicken thigh. If you've ever been to Powerhouse Bakery and had our Chicken Joe, you know what we use this one for. I love it because it's all natural. So remember, when we look at the front of pack and we're trying to identify what product is the best, there's a lot of good information on the front of pack, especially when it comes to chicken. There's so many confusing information elements, and so I like to spend a little time just showing you this. So why did I pick the fresh, natural, no antibiotics ever chicken? First of all, I like the fact that it's fresh. It's never been frozen. Also, notice here, never ever treated with antibiotics. never fed animal byproducts, no added hormones ever, no artificial ingredients, and no preservatives. So that sounds pretty good, right? Also, the price per pound here, $1.89, still very easy to work with on the budget. So I like the fact that there's lots of good information on the front. Now, if I wanted to choose the air chilled chicken, that would be different than the all natural chicken. And let me show you why. As I look on the smaller print, hatched, raised, and harvested in USA, that's good, although all chicken is. Minimally processed, no artificial ingredients. Federal regulations prohibit the use of hormones or steroids in poultry. So, even though up here it says never ever treated with hormones, well, that's good because it's not allowed anywhere, anytime, according to that information. So it gives you a little bit of ambiguity, but nonetheless, I do really like the texture of this one. Now, let's flip it over and see if there is any sodium added or any saline solution. So this product was prepared from inspected and passed meat and or poultry. That's good. Some food products may contain bacteria that could cause illness if the product is mishandled. Scary, right? Well, we know that's always the case. There's always a risk of foodborne illness, which is why we want to make sure we fully cook our meats and fish. So for sure, we want to reduce the risk by getting a product that is fresh, and we check the date, and we know that it's local, which of course all chicken is. And then we want to look a little bit farther and see if there's any saline or any bleach processing added to this. So raw meat and poultry separate from other foods, that's a good warning. Wash working surfaces, including the cutting board. So when we're doing our preparation, we want to make sure that we use a separate cutting board for meats. Very important. So notice here, I've got everything packaged right now, but when we do our batch preparation, we're going to do the meat separate from the complex carbs and the veggies. That's just a good rule of thumb. Now, it doesn't look like there's been any sodium added to this product. And so I have to really search for it. But look at here. Contains up to 3% retained water. That is the smoking gun. Not a bad thing, but it does mean that now if we do some research and we understand how chicken is processed, this one, in addition to the lesser quality brand, will go through a bleaching process, and then it goes through a pulping process, which is that saline solution, so that it retains water. Big difference. If we get the air chilled chicken, it will not have that because it does not go through that process. So reality is, this is still a good product. Just know that sometimes the front of pack information is probably a little misleading because of the fact that regulations prohibit much of this anyway. So that's that. But I really love to at least encourage you to use the dark meat chicken. You can take off the skin if you want, but really it has great cooking technique. And you'll see that when we cook our chicken, we want it to be fully cooked so that it falls off the bone. I have to remind my team a lot that low and slow is the way to do chicken. So I'll play around with that one and show you more details later. Okay, one other item that I did go a little more fancy with, and that is good quality cheese. Better than a processed cheese, and we don't probably want to get the cheapest version of cheese, mainly because we want to use a small amount. Remember that cheese is one of our fats. It's not going to really count as the protein. So when we're picking our cheeses, we want to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck. So get one that you love the flavor of right out of the bag. So I picked the Tillamook, but again, you can pick another product if you like. But I also really love the thick shred of this one. It's a great product, and it really melts beautifully. And so you'll see this in action on a couple of dishes. So there you have it. This is all the groceries that we're going to need, and again, under $60, and we've got lots of variety. Let me show you one other item. Whenever we do meal prep, we want to have some good containers to put things in as we're preparing for the week. These are actually my favorites, Pyrex storage containers. Notice that it's a nice glass container. Beautiful shape, they stack beautifully, and I love the lids. They can go right into the oven, so you can bake in these. You can also re-warm in the microwave. And I love the fact that it's a beautiful, nice fitting lid, so things don't leak. It's a really good product. These seem to be a little harder to find. Last week when I was shopping for you, I couldn't find more of these, but I'm pretty sure we can get them online. So I'm gonna check for us. These are also pretty good. Like the other ones, they have a nice snap-on lid, and they definitely hold plenty. So the previous one I showed you is probably close to 1 serving if we wanted to put our protein, our complex carbohydrate, and our veggie all in one. I think that'd be just about right. With this one, it's a little deeper, so I could probably do my prep and put them in here, even if I wanted to cook in batches and have all of my rice prepared and put in here and ready in the fridge. Because remember, we want to make it easy for us and our family to grab healthy. We don't want them to be tempted to run to a fast food joint, because your kitchen can instead be the healthy fast food to go. So great options right here. So now I want to go through one more piece of the detail, and then we're going to get to prepping. Very important to find your favorite spice. So here at Powerhouse, we do sell spices, and of course I'd love for you to come in and visit us, and I'll walk you through some of the ones we do have, but you can also make your own. So what I've put in this little container is I have a blend of oregano, smoked paprika, thyme, and a little bit of chili. So smoked paprika, soft, kind of smoky, sublime, chili for a little kick, and then the soft herbs, oregano and thyme, really balance out the palate. So finding a group of flavors that you really like is your base ingredient. So of course we always have some salt, and we always have some oil, but then you want to have kind of your favorite spice that you use as a neutral flavor that you start with everything. And then as you reinvent during the week, you add other flavors to it. So that's when we might add a little bit of enchilada sauce, or we might add a little marinara on the top, or we may or may not add some of our citrus. So adding those layers of flavor start when you shop at H-E-B. You want to make sure you've got lots of flavors. And then you want to add some fresh pizzazz at the very end. And what could be better than a beautiful avocado? So if you buy these in the beginning of the week, you want to make sure they're fairly hard. You know, it's always a science when you're trying to pick a good avocado. But what I want to look for is one that doesn't have any bubbles, meaning there isn't any section where the skin is, there's a bubble underneath it, for lack of a better term. You don't want them to be extra cold. If they are extra cold, sometimes when you cut into them, the flesh has actually turned kind of a grayish brown, and that means that it's probably gotten almost below 32, which means that it hurts the flesh. It still tastes pretty good, but as we know, the eyes eat first, and if our avocados aren't beautiful, we kind of do a ho-hum and probably not use it. So firm, I feel it all around, there isn't any bubbles, and it isn't so soft that it yields to gentle pressure. So that's the way to kind of find the best avocados. I really love this size, the fairly small ones, because that makes sure that we can use all of it in one time. And so as you're going through the week, leave these on the counter and keep them ready for you. And then when you're ready to serve your dish, slice up one and add it to the finishing touch of your dish, whether it be fish or stuffed poblano or some roasted peppers or even a salad. Adding some good avocado at the very end is in fact our healthy fats. So what should we start with when we do our production? Well, I want to get started with the veggie production. So right on my cutting board, I am going to put several items because I want to get lots cooking in the oven, and then second, I'm going to start on the stove on my complex carbs as well. So I'm going to put potatoes and poblanos here and pop them in the oven. Then the second thing is I'm going to start boiling some water for my complex carbs, because remember, they stay in the fridge beautifully. So to start with my poblanos, the trick is to keep the stem intact, and I'm going to just slice it right down the center. Beautiful poblanos. I love these. They're so fun. You can leave some of the seeds in if you want, but that will add to the heat. So what I like to recommend is just take them out. Just cut straight across the edge, and it keeps the pepper in shape so it doesn't collapse when we roast them. So I'm just going to slice all around there and toss those out. And there we have it. So I usually do 6 or 7 poblanos at a time. But if you don't have enough dishes to use all of those, they do roast pretty quickly, so you could do a couple midweek if you want to. But right now we're going to get 4 halves, and that will be plenty for the dishes that we're going to do. And remember, they hold beautifully. So once you roast them, put them in one of your containers and they are going to be good for the whole week. So there we have it. Those are ready to go. And I'm going to put them on my baking sheet and I'm going to add the potatoes. So it's always good to wash right before you use your potatoes. So I just rinsed all these and now I'm going to take them out of the little net bag. So I'm thinking of, like, for a family of 4, I could use this full container of potatoes and I can use them as a breakfast complex carb, roll it up with a little chicken and some beans, and it would be a great breakfast taco. Of course, I'm going to show you how to use them with our proteins, the chicken and the turkey. We're going to serve them with meatloaf as well as a turkey burger. So many options. So if you cut them in quarters, you want to get the size about the same. So these are easy because they're a nice small size and we want them to cook uniformly, which is why we want to make sure that the size really holds. One thing I love about cutting them ahead and cooking this way is, look, we can find the not so healthy ones to discard. So it gives you a chance to double check on the inside. If we don't cut them, then we might not catch that, and then our family would, and it would probably be not very tasty. So I'm going to go through all of these. Now, once I get them cut, I'm going to put them into a bowl and toss them with my flavors. So remember I mentioned we want to use that base flavor, and then we probably want to bump up the volume a little bit with one more flavor profile. So that adobo spice is going to be the first layer, and then I'm going to add a little bit of citrus on the top of that. So almost done here. You can take out the eyes if you want, some of these little items, but you know, I don't worry about them too much unless they're starting to sprout. Then it starts to make the potato a little bitter, so you definitely want to cut out that part that's starting to develop into a new root. Best way to store potatoes is in a cool, dry place. So you really don't want to put them in your fridge. It's better in your pantry. So it's not exposed to light, but that it's not going to be so cold that it caramelizes or changes the sugars. Now, let's put these babies right into my bowl, because we're going to toss with olive oil and all those beautiful spices. We could just put them right onto the baking sheet, but this way is going to allow us to get all the flavor around the potato cut edges. And you know, really, potatoes do need plenty of flavor, otherwise they seem kind of bland. So there we go. That's about 1.5 pounds of the red potatoes, and I'm going to add in a tablespoon of my walnut oil. Remember, I count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. That's 1 tablespoon. And then I'm going to add my spice. And I'll show you, it's going to be about 1.5 teaspoons. So right there. And again, it's going to vary depending on what spice you choose. And 1.5 teaspoons of salt. There we go. And give it a good toss. And here they go. Look at how beautiful. So get good coverage. And we just want to spread them out a little bit. And now for my extra pizzazz, I'm going to add in my lemon. Lemon is great on potatoes. I'm going to start with a squeeze now, and then I'm going to finish off right when I pull them out of the oven with another squeeze. Adds so much great flavor. Remember, whenever we do our flavor profile, you want to have something that's going to have brightness, something that's going to have smokiness, and of course, if you want, you could add a little bit of sweet. And one thing that's so great about good potatoes is that gives it a little bit of sweet. These babies are going to go in the oven, so I'm going to put the oven on about 375, and it'll probably take a good 40 minutes for the potatoes. These guys I'm going to check in 15, so it's easy. I'll just pull it out, pull these guys off, and let them finish cooking. Fall off?
No, it will just kind of.
What's our time?
24 minutes.
Okay, so I'll end because we're going to add that little bit of the from the HEB, right? So the next step that I'm going to do is start my rice. So whenever you do a rice, number one thing is you need a very good pot. You need a tight-fitting lid, and you want to be able to measure very carefully so that you don't have to look in to see if your rice is done. It's got a clear lid, so you can just peek in. So measure carefully, tight-fitting lid, and let it go. So the trick is if you do 3 cups of water, you need 1.5 cups of grain, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So 3 cups of water and then my 1.5 cups of rice, and let it roll. Just make sure you let your water boil and then add in your rice, turn down the temperature, and it's good to go. See you soon.